Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The VCT is underway around the world. Big reaction as well from Sentinels as to their good start to the season, and roster changes as well elsewhere are causing serious controversy as to whether they're working or not working with some of these rosters so far. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate the patience over the last few days. I am back. I've not quit the channel, and just want to give a few words as to why. The last few days I've been here in Dallas for the Call of Duty Major 2 tournament, which is what I cover on another channel, and I also have a channel covering a similar thing in Formula 1. Given the timings of the days, with the time zone in play and the event schedule and working the event all day, and managing the team here locally and all this sort of stuff, you know, I had to choose whether I was able to make either a Formula 1 video or a Valorant video, and with the F1 season getting underway and all sorts of drama over there, that's what I decided to do instead. So, you know, I'm back, the event is over now, and I'll be flying back to the UK today, actually. So, from now onwards, we should be back to regular scheduled programming, unless there's any sort of chaos that happens. I appreciate as well, this video is arriving far later in the day than it typically would, because of time zones and that type of stuff. So anyway, quick explanation there. Let's get back right into the news, because lots have happened over the last few days while we have been busy, and this was one of them. So on the 21st of March, Reyna got disabled because there was an issue with preventing Reyna from properly using Overheal from her Devour ability, and it wasn't updating her health properly. So it's actually not it doesn't make her better. Exactly right. It's not like a game-breaking thing, but it was broken, and therefore they decided to get rid of her. And actually the VCT though said, Reyna's not obviously massively used in the pro scene, but they did decide that they would keep Reyna in, because removing it with less than 24 hours to the competition probably wouldn't have been the best idea if they were preparing to use Reyna, and saying that, look, if you decide to use Reyna and, well, the bug happens, then we're not going to grant any pauses or anything like that. So that was their update. But I think for many pro players and for many players, they're actually pretty happy that Reyna was gone, and I think it's kind of interesting to think about small tweaks of the game that could improve things. Like, change is always different and sometimes is good, but as Shazam says, best thing to ever happen to Ranked, and Ten said a similar thing. Low-key Reyna being disabled was a more enjoyable time playing Ranked, and now we all suffer from the Reyna Instocks bottom fragging again. So thought that was pretty interesting, because I like Reyna as a character, but certainly I know what Tens means by this. So maybe it's something at least to think about here, that look, Valorant is never going to reduce the number of agents. That's just not how things work. You know, they'll just keep adding and adding and adding forever. But maybe there's an argument that at some point an agent could be removed or disabled, or in the same way that maps are rotated in and out of the pool, maybe it could be the same thing for agents. If there's a couple of agents, maybe do something kind of similar, you know, remove one of them, bring the other one in instead for some time. It's something at least to think about. Now, there was some roster stuff over the last few days. MIBR certainly cooked up a fair few things. We know they've got Sassy on the team as well. They, of course, have also signed Verno to their roster now. That is officially played from them against Leviathan very impressively just the other day. And also there's talk about Aspas and whether his contract is going to get substantially extended. I guess we'll see. But I think MIBR have started the season, look, they didn't make it in the end to Bangkok, but they've started the season particularly well, given where they could have been, given where they were last year, for example. And Aspas, it does seem, has made a substantial amount of difference to this team as a result. Let's talk about the games, though, that have happened over the last couple of days. Just to quickly mention, I don't think I covered this at the time, that SR Black, they won the Americas Challenges for Stage 1. Of course, the most notable thing for me about this is the funny storyline of when Jake, former Cloud9 Jake, was clowning this team for signing Monsi instead of somebody else, and it turns out that Monsi actually cooked up a bit of a masterpiece here. So it was a real close series. I mean, it was 3-1, but you know, the map that M80 won was actually a 13-6, and after that it was 15-13 overtime, 13-9 on the Haven, and then a 13-10. So you know, impressive win. M80 will feel frustrated, but still, for Stage 1, it's not a bad result for a number of these teams, right? I mean, you know, Cubit ended up 4th, Rankers or Envy 5th, 6th, TSM are here. Really tough to call what's going to happen when it comes to qualifying, you know, through Ascension for the rest of this season. EMEA is still not underway yet. It actually begins tomorrow. So we have Vitality, Giantex, BBL versus Carmine Corps. That goes on very shortly indeed. The Chinese region, though, is well underway, and we've had some interesting results so far, to be fair, because these groups are pretty tasty. Of course, you've got to be in the top 4 to make it through, and yeah, it's not looking so good for JDG and all gamers so far. I think especially JDG, the way that they've lost some really close series. I mean, for example, this one against Billy, they lost 13-10, then they 13-5'd them back. Of course, this is, Stew and that team over there, and then, of course, they lost the Fracture. So, because they're 51-57 round cap, a 1-4 and 0-2, so not the ideal start for them, given there's not, they play single round robin, everyone plays everybody else. Of course, the most notable result, of course, is this one, Edward Gaming versus Nova, where Edward got 2-0'd by Nova Esports. Not going to see this every day. There was a lot of talk recently about whether Simon could be gone from EDG, but of course the funny thing about that is that this series, he went 25-19 map 1 and then 14-17 map 2, which okay isn't great, but everyone else basically did the same. So Edward just remain a confusing team, don't they really? Like, they go to the international, they do well, domestically they will always win the playoffs, but in these regular season games, and also every team tends to bring their A game against Edward, so maybe an upset result like this somewhat expected, but Edward do need to lock in again. So far, FPX are looking nice at 2-0. Wolves as well, a great start for them. Billy, etc, etc. You guys can see the rest. Tyloo with the most challenging start so far. In the Pacific, probably the most notable result so far. I mean, T1 beat Zeta. It was actually a 2-1 against Zeta. So, good work from Zeta to at least get a map on the board here on the split after a 14-12. But after that, T1, of course, the champions of Bangkok got the job done. But two big results. I mean, BME and then, PRX, of course, going down. Now, the PRX result is interesting just because, PaperX have been throwing around the possibility of making a change. They brought in Patman as their 6th man. That may mean something soon. DRX are good too, but still, that result was interesting. But Gen.G going down to Boom Esports, of course, after making the changes that they did. Look, you know that I'm a big fan of Foxy Knight. I don't think that they should necessarily have got rid of him. But yeah, to go down and get 2-0'd by Boom Esports in this way, that to me was very questionable. And the next series, they play PaperX, which of course is massively important in the context of this entire season to come, to be honest, for these teams. Now, Sentinels, they got the job done against 100T very impressively, in fact, especially on the final map of the series where they frankly destroyed them. I mean, look, this rivalry continues not to be too much of a rivalry, really. But yeah, Zekan says 2-1 versus 100T. Asna as well says small bump in the roads. Been here plenty of times before. It's just the format is so unforgiving. I think that's the key challenge, really, for these teams. Is that there's no, there's no yielding in many respects. If you don't do well in your important games at the start of the year, you find yourself incredibly quickly in an awful position, which is going to be very challenging to recover from. And that's pretty much where 100T could, to some extent, already find themselves if things don't turn around quickly. But yeah, big game from Zelsis, as he says. Unk still got it, right? And yeah, it was a 2-1 against 100T. It was close until it wasn't, really. I mean, it was 13-5 game 1 of the Pearl, then it was a 13-9 bounce back, but then the split, you think, okay, banger split decider coming up, bang, 13-1. Sentinels have always been good at this, but yeah, the type of loss for 100T that is difficult to cope with in the sense that you're expecting to at least be competitive when you go to a split decider, and that was not the case at all. There was other big results though as well. NRG, of course, they made the change for Brock. He came in, they got rid of Verno, caused a few questions, and they went down to C9. This is one of those series that really, I think you've got to win if you're NRG, if you want to be a serious contender. And they won the game 1, but after that they got 13-5, and the Pearl was in the end 13-9 after a very difficult first round start. So, yeah, definitely notable. Like, it is early days, but every one of these matches is massively important. And MIBR, this was a really interesting game in the context of the entire last couple of seasons, right? Because we've got MIBR here against Lev. Well, former team for Aspas, of course, last year went to the team, and it's not like Aspas even had a great series here by his standards, but that's exactly what he would want, because, the fact that Aspas has a 0.95 rating, 171 ACS, probably the lowest you're ever going to see from him, it still goes positive, but it's not like he had to do much. Zenon was on point, Verno came in and did a solid job, Artzan was on fire as well, Cortasia played well, and Lev had no real answer. Of course, their first real series with Rossi into their team as well. They won the game 1 13-7. They won the game 2 13-8 after a dominant second side on the attack. That's when Aspas had his better map. The first map he did basically nothing, and they still won. So, yeah, very interesting early starts here in the Americas side. And this is how it looks as well. So, EG, they took down 2G. That was a 2-0. I don't think it was the cleanest you're ever going to see, to be fair. I know that they felt like they threw a couple of rounds here. It was 13-11, 13-8 in the end. Crew took down Loud. G2 took down Furia as well, relatively comfortably. So, that's the start so far. Every team has played one game, and look, every game will be very important in terms of qualifying for the playoffs, and, you know, I think 100T can be okay, but of course the round count is potentially a differentiating factor. There could be some very interesting tiebreakers that come up in these regions, so round count is relevant, and 100T already being at -16 and Sen being at +16 is a very nice start, all things considered. So that's where we're going to leave it for today. Very much interested to your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.